The cozy gaming space is filled with hundreds of witchy themed games, but have you ever wanted to run a bakery as a witch? Well, you can do that in the newly released Magical Bakery game. I am always on the hunt for a good cooking game, so I've tried and tested this one to see if it will bake your day or if it's just plain stale. For full transparency, this is an honest review, and even though I was given a copy of this game, I've not received any payment for this review, nor have I been told what I can and cannot say. If you want more cozy game content, don't forget to like and also subscribe, but let's get to the kitchen. So first off, before we get into what the game is all about, you may want to know if you can play it on your console. Well, Magical Bakery released on the 7th of November, and it's been released on quite a few consoles, including the PC, Switch, PS5 and Xbox. It's also available in physical format for some of those consoles, but do expect that to cost you a little bit more. There is currently an introductory offer on Steam with 10% off, which sets the price at £15.29 or £17.99, which I think is a pretty good price for the sort of gameplay that you're going to get here and expect to see. Okay, that's the details out of the way. What can you actually expect from the gameplay of this game? Well, Magical Bakery is a single-player management game where you get to run your very own bakery, but there is a magical twist because you play as an apprentice attending at the Academy of Magical Bakers, and you are sent to a struggling shop to put your learning into practice by cooking up magical sweets. The game starts as you are introduced to the old witch Baba who owns the store, and she wastes no time in putting you to work. The game is all set in one building, and you have some key rooms including the shop front, the kitchen, the elemental room and the bedroom. The kitchen is where you will do most of your baking, and you will use the different stations including the oven and the baking trays to craft the recipes ready for sale. You will then head to the shop front where you can interact with different customers who will all have different requests. These choices will somewhat be guided by the daily specials board. There are also a variety of ways customers can be served, either at the counter where they can make special requests, or they may want to enjoy their treat sitting down in the bakery. As you progress, you can also display your goods in the window, and the customers will select them from there too. Because you are a student, you can expect to undergo exams, and these will run each in-game week. At the beginning of the week, you will be set 3 mystery recipes which you must discover and craft ready for the representative of the Academy to come and taste test. If you pass, your level will raise and there'll be new mystery recipes to uncover, new ingredients and other new things to tackle. This includes learning about elementals, which are an adorable little creature, and they will help you make magical sprinkles. If you manage to pass all of your exams, you will save the shop. Overall, the gameplay loop was pretty smooth, maybe a little bit repetitive, but I think that is the nature with games of this type, and probably didn't help that I have played a lot of this game in a short space of time. This was helped though because there is a steady stream of new things to keep excited about, including recipes, spells and upgrades. In the beginning, I was a little bit worried about completing the recipes required to pass the exams, but so far I've not had any difficulties, and although I do prioritize them, I didn't find myself panicking that I wouldn't be able to figure out the recipes, and you do have help from other characters around the game. As I said, the game locations are pretty minimal, which means that you do have visitors coming to the shop. This includes Shen, who will sell you plenty of ingredients, Amber the Goblin, who helps with upgrades and fixing things, and your examiner from the Academy, Ludover. Ludover especially has a clear personality, and his attitude toward the shop did make me want to succeed even more. Baba, in the beginning, who is the head witch, obviously, of the bakery, was a little bit frosty, but I definitely warmed to her over time, especially when she helped me with the recipe hints and ingredients. There is also a bakery cat, Arbel, who is very useful, and I think the hat is adorable. I do wish you could pet him though. You can choose to talk to all of the characters if you want to learn a little bit more about their species, their lore, and just general personalities, which was fun, but I didn't find myself doing this all the time, as the character interactions could be a little bit long for my liking. Following the character creation of this game, I was a little bit dubious about the art style of the game, but I actually enjoyed the character's appearance in the game, and they definitely had that strong fantasy feel which felt right at home here. The bakery and the different rooms were also really nicely done, and some of the details in this game are really good. There was like mushrooms everywhere, little witch's hat. I just loved taking all of that in. I do wish, however, that there was a way to customize the shop a bit more and put your own stamp on it. I think that would have really tipped this game over the edge for me, but they did do a good job of meeting the witchy brief, that's for sure. The game is also voice acted. I believe it's in Spanish though, and I tried to play with the voices for a little while, but in the end I had to turn them off. It's just something about hearing them and reading the English text which just threw me off. And it was nice to have the option to have them off or have them on if you wanted to. With the voices off, the music alone was fine, and it did have a little bit of a mystical feeling. The sound effects were also helpful if you missed some visual cues, such as a doorbell welcoming in a new customer. As for the controls, I played this using keyboard and mouse on PC, and I'm not sure I would recommend playing this way. I think this is definitely designed more for a controller, and I did encounter a few issues where I lost my cursor, which was slightly odd. I'm not sure if I was pressing or activating something, or whether this is actually a bug. I also found there were some instances where it was hard to switch between things, particularly the oven, as it required me to press E and then switch using the D or A keys, which was a little hard to negotiate. The game is obviously available on console and Switch, so you shouldn't have this problem should you decide to play it on a different platform, or maybe if you just plug a controller in, you might have a bit of a smoother experience than I did. Okay, so that's a pretty good overview and some key points, but what about the pros and cons? Let's start with the good stuff. As someone who doesn't like to read a heavy block of text to learn things, I really did appreciate the visual cues, and you can actually see how things are supposed to work in the game, and it just made it that little bit easier to comprehend. Cooking management games by nature can be a little bit hectic, but I really did appreciate that time pauses when the shop is not open, so you can prepare for the day and do other tasks. It was kind of like, the shop is now closed, I can relax and prepare things at my own pace. I did really like the upgrade system as well. I'm very glad that this was a feature, as when you tick off different upgrades, it really feels like you're making progress, which I like in my video games. The story was also very clear, very linear, and it did leave you feeling like you're progressing and improving, which was also another good little reward at the end of the week. The game doesn't have many mini-games or puzzles like other cooking games, and maybe that is a little bit disappointing, but I did like the way the recipes work in the game and how you learn them. The ingredients for particular recipes are blanked out, and then you kind of have to figure out for yourself what that recipe needs, so it was like a fun little experiment. It was also nice that Baba could give you hints here and there if you were really struggling. Now time for the cons. This game has obviously just released, and because of that, I think it's fair to say there might be some bugs, but I think aside from the potential bug mentioned for the controls earlier, the only other issue I encountered was with customers sitting at the table where another customer had already sat. So they were kind of sitting on top of each other when there was an empty space next to them, which was just slightly odd. And I almost did get stuck between the customers in the line, but thankfully this rectified itself when I picked up an item. So maybe that one was a me issue, but yeah, I don't know what I would have done if I had got stuck, because I wouldn't have wanted to replay the day again. That would have been a little bit disheartening. I also did think that some of the camera movements could be improved on. There was sometimes a really quick pan when speaking with characters, which seemed to come from nowhere, and there were a few black screens which could have definitely not been so jarring, like a little bit of a smoother introduction to them. The other thing that I wasn't a huge fan of was the character creation. There were some good options, I would have just liked more of them. One of the things that there was lots of was the wands, which seemed a little bit odd to me because yes, you use it in the game, but you don't see a lot of it, like you're just running around with it, whereas your actual whole character seems to display more. So I would have liked more of like a focus on different character outfits, different hats, maybe just something a little bit more. Give me more color options, more color choices, just more of everything. Hair options as well. I think maybe I've got so used to having lots of different options that this is really clouding my judgment here, but I think we're getting used to that, and I think it's something that we should kind of expect to see in cozy games as well. Just more options would be good. My other cons kind of really relate to how your experience in the bakery could just be that bit smoother. I would really love the ability to be able to swap what's in your hands with something at a workstation. For example, when you go up to the oven, it will auto replace the dough that you have in your hand, but it doesn't do that. In the game, it's a little bit of a faff because you have to place down an item, then pick up another item, and then just swap everything. I kind of get why this is done this way, because they want to have items to spoil so you can use the bin, but this would just make everything so much smoother and not feel so disjointed. I was also a little bit disappointed that there wasn't an option to upgrade to carry 2 items, or if there is, I haven't got there yet. I also found that the spell cooldown was a little bit unnecessary. There was quite a few times where I was trying to detect a raccoon, who, if you haven't played the game yet, they are little characters that hide and they steal items from your shop and you don't get a payment from them. So it's important you find them. But I wasn't close enough, so I had to wait ages for it to refresh to do it again. I just think that could really be improved on. There doesn't need to be a cooldown, because what are we waiting for? Arbol the cat also has the ability to go out on little excursions for you to get ingredients, which is a really nice little feature. And I know it says during the tutorial for this that you have to remember these, but my memory is not good. It would have been nice for this little detail to be added into your journal somewhere, because I feel like that is what a journal's for. It's for jotting down things. So that would have been a nice little feature. Instead, I'll just have to write it down in real life. Overall, I would recommend this game. I had a lot of fun with it, and I can definitely see myself trying to complete it and get all of those upgrades. After 7 hours of gameplay, I don't think I have that much further to go in the story to complete the academy, as there appears to be 6 upgrades, and I'm currently nearly on to grade 5. I will be very interested to see what happens once they are all unlocked, and if there is more gameplay. I really hope there is. I just don't know if there'll be more story, like maybe you can just refresh through each day and progress more. I think you would also enjoy this game if you were a fan of Lemon Cake. This game feels very similar to that game with a few improvements. But generally, if you do like witchy themed games, this is a good alternative if you want to try a management game and still have that magical aesthetic. If you want a very laid back game, I wouldn't recommend this one for you. It is going to be hectic by the nature of the game. You're running around preparing things. The customers do have timers on them, so they may get angry and leave, although there isn't necessarily a huge penalty for this. It is going to be one of those games where you have to think about what you're doing. You really have to kind of be switched on and be quite fast and proactive with things. So if that's what you want just a really laid back game, I wouldn't recommend this for that sort of gameplay style, but it is still a very fun game. And if you're ready to like tackle and run a bakery, then maybe it is for you. I would give this game an 8 out of 10. I think there is still definitely room for improvement, but it is a pretty solid game and I have had a few hours of fun out of it so far. So I think that's a pretty fair score. Let me know in the comments if you're going to play this game and what you think about it. If you've played it on any other consoles, also let me know how it runs. I'm very interested to hear, and there might be someone else in the community that's considering making a purchase on a different console to what I played it on. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye!